Welcome to the State of the Union podcast, where we look at the beautiful game on and off the field through the lens of red, white, and blue colored glasses. Oh, my goodness. We got such an interesting and wonderful live show. This show, as I mentioned, is live, and it is an instant reaction of the just completed USA versus South Korea match. On Saturday, it was a friendly over there in New Jersey. Just finished. 0 for the United States, 2 for Korea, as we sit, as a reminder, just 278 days from the kickoff of the 2026 World Cup. But first, joining me, as always, my friend, my colleague, my guiding light, David Mosse, a soccer savant and a Fox Soccer researcher and writer extraordinaire, and back again, basically a regular on the State of the Union. You know him, you love him. Well, you know him. Stu Holden, the 40-year-old
40
Stu
years
Holden,
old, baby.
after a summer. And if you follow Stu on Instagram, you will know he was all over the place, having a wonderful summer. Good to have you back. Good to have you here. But don't bore us. Get to the chorus. We're going to get right into this game. Not good, guys. Not good at all. I know the alarm bells are going off out there relative to this team. Like I said, so close to the World Cup. Pochettino, what's going on? Shouldn't we have momentum? Shouldn't we be positive? Shouldn't we be excited about what is to come? And yet I fear and feel the dread consuming much of the soccer nation out there relative to this team after yet another loss under Mauricio Pochettino to a team that is a perennial attendee of World Cups and will be there once again next summer. And, 90 minutes, it wasn't close. It wasn't a smash and grab by Korea. They were the better team. General thoughts as we come on air here. I'll start with you, Stu, because you are a guest.
Okay, thanks. I was going to let Mosse, because he's been steaming
I
at
know,
the ears.
I know.
I can feel the
Pace
steam.
ourselves.
Actually, it's very
Pace
hot in
ourselves.
here sitting next to him. Look, it's tough to find really many positives from that game, if I'm being honest. And one, I'll start in being positive. I'm 40 years old now. I'm seeing the bright side of life, Alexi Lalas.
All right.
I'm going to let you stop rubbing off on me. Serginho Dest looked pretty good in his first time back with the U.S. men's national team since tearing his ACL. Wasn't a part of the Gold Cup. Got to look at the right back position, which I did feel for moments in the first half. The U.S. looked fairly effective down their right-hand side, which Christian Pulisic played on the right. Diego Luna was playing in that number 10, and then Dest on the right-hand side as well. And especially when South Korea, who were playing out of a back three or back five at times, were sitting with numbers behind the ball. It was the only time that I felt that we could create chances, when either Pulisic was beating his man off the dribble or Serginho Dest was able to do that, open up the field a little bit. But then ultimately the U.S. only had 2 shots, one of them on target in the first half. In the second half, it got a little bit better for the U.S. in terms of just the shots, but the game was gone. I mean, it's
a different game
overall,
in the second half.
I don't
easy
even
to say,
like to try to
they got
separate.
better in the second half. And yes, you
100%.
want it, but you can't do that. Mosse, should we go through the lineup at least to start off and kind of set
let's
this up?
kick it off there and
some
narrow
people
the
might
focus in.
They might be listening or watching to this after the fact, so let's make sure we catch them up on where we are.
I do want to say before we go through the lineup, Mauricio Pochettino attended an Ohio State game last week, and he was pining for that same type of crowd today. And there was almost as much red in Harrison as there was,
yes, there was
in
a
the
lot of
horseshoe.
red.
That was a decidedly South Korean crowd. But yes, the lineup today: Matt Freese in goal, Dest at right back, Tristan Blackman and Ream in the center of the defense, Arfston at left back, and then Tyler Adams and Berhalter sitting in the midfield. Luna as the 10. Pulisic, Weah, and Sargent. As Stu mentioned, Pulisic started on the right, Weah on the left, which meant that Pulisic and Dest were on the same side. Some of the U.S.'s best moments in that first half came about with interplay between those two, so that was good to see. At center back, though, because we all think Richards is the guy that's etched in stone and Ream is the spot that's under question, if you're going to try out somebody new, I'd like to see him alongside Richards.
Right.
So if Ream and Blackman starting today means we're going to see Richards and Noah Kai Banks against Japan, okay. But I almost think it's unfair to judge somebody when they're playing alongside Ream when really what they're trying out for is the role alongside Richards at the World Cup.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings on that, because I think that Ream is the experience, the captain, and if you're going to give a guy his first ever cap and first ever start for the national team, I think playing next to Tim Ream is a safer option. And look, let's be honest, Tristan Blackman was pretty underwhelming in this match and in this appearance. I was interested of trying to figure out what Pochettino was really asking of him, because especially when the U.S. were in possession of the ball, he was squeezing very tight. And even then defensively, when the US were in their own half defending, he was playing very aggressively. And it's actually part of what led to that first goal for South Korea. We had no pressure on the ball. The lines were disconnected. We're not cutting off passing lanes. Blackman's a little bit higher, too big of a gap between he and Tim Ream. And then the ball is slipped in behind to Son Heung-Min, who then plays, he's one of the best players on the planet, this guy, and plays a wonderful ball, the back post, he scores, and that started the game off well for South Korea. Some of that, look, is to be expected. It's the first time Ream and Blackman have ever played together. But I'm not willing to sit here and say, well, this is the national team 10 months away from a World Cup. These are things, look, if you're going to experiment a little bit, you have different partnerships in different parts of the field. Some of that I get is expected. But look, tactically, the discipline, the way the U.S. looks in and out of shape, it's more concerning for me than it is encouraging in what I saw from this game. And once again, I'm left feeling like, I don't know, like play a back three, play a back five, stop conceding chances, stop conceding goals, and play in a way in which we did in the second half. Look, I know we went to that and the game was a different game complex. So it's easy to say, look, the U.S. were better in the second half. South Korea took their foot off the gas. So you can't just say we were great. The fact is, again, we didn't score a goal. Again, we didn't beat a top 25 opponent, which we have not done since the 2022 World Cup. And once again, we're left with more questions than we are answers. And the few little moments of positivity, I'm not even going to talk about those because just once again, an underwhelming performance from the U.S.
So, as you mentioned, the U.S. in the second half did switch to a back three. He brought on Chris Richards. It was Richards, Ream, and Blackman with Freeman and Arston as the wingbacks. What did you make of that? Is that something the U.S. can build on moving forward?
I think so. Look, Lex, I've been saying this for, I don't know, maybe 2 years at this point, but I just think with the profile of players that we have this constant question about our center backs right now. And can Tim Ream make it to next year? He's going to be 38 in October. Well, you know how you help him get there? You put an extra man in the back and you play solid because he's still our best passer back there. Chris Richards has shown he can handle the duties as the middle center back. You add another center back. We have two fullbacks if you play Anthony Robinson and Des that can play as wingers. So you're not playing negatively. You're not playing defensively by saying you're going to play with three in the back. In fact, it actually gives you an extra man in the attack and still keeps you solid defensively if you're playing with three center backs, two holding midfielders in front. You constantly have five behind the ball. And then it just alleviates a little defensive pressure from Pulisic, from Weah, from Luna, from whoever in the forward part of the field. I just seriously think that Pochettino now has to start transitioning his head to start to think about, we can't beat top opponents and we're conceding goals against top opponents. To go far in the World Cup, you have to beat a top opponent. We can't do it playing in the formation that we're playing with the personnel that we have. And he's even said himself, this is the last window really for experimentation.
Yeah, I mean, the formation may indeed be part of the problem, and he might change it because he has, like you said that this was the last opportunity to get a look at players. So if you take him at his word, then the next window is going to feature whatever he feels is not only the personnel, but also the personnel playing in the most advantageous way going forward. But we'll see if there's any changes. Matt Freese, I thought he should have done better on the first goal. That back line, yes, I thought Dest was the standout and, probably the one, I'm not even going to say bright spot, but a shiny spot, if you will. Blackman wasn't up to it. Tim Ream is Tim Ream. Max Arston can't play left back. I'm sorry.
Not at the national team level.
At the national team level. No. And maybe at the national team level he could play a different position, but for what they're doing right now, that's not the answer. And yes, we have Jedi coming back. And I think I was left overall saying, all right, you put Jedi in there and you have Destin here and then you put Chris Richards in and then you put maybe Weston McKennie in. That starting 11 does start to look better, but it's also coming, if people didn't realize it yet, that we don't have a lot of depth. So an injury or a red card or some problem out there could be real problems for this team going forward. That midfield, I still think Tyler Adams has actually started off well over in the EPL, but it didn't translate today. I thought he was still kind of sloppy. Sebastian Berhalter did what he did. It was interesting, the back and forth between him and Pulisic on the free kicks. Diego Luna, I thought, was too far away from the play, but I thought he at least tried to do some things, but it was almost as if he was playing a different game. Christian Pulisic, he can't be tired, right? But switching back and forth and didn't have the impact that you need Christian Pulisic to have on a game, to take the game on his shoulders. Tim Weah, I thought at times had some moments, and Josh Sargent was invisible. But what was concerning for me was, again, and I feel like I'm just a broken record when it comes to not just this version under Pochettino, but maybe in general, is that no pressure on the ball, like you mentioned, on a consistent basis, including that first goal where there were multiple players that got the ball, turned, looked up, and had all the time in the world to have a smoke and a coffee before playing it. And then this 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 desire and need to constantly play out of the back against a very good high pressing type of Korea team and have absolutely no outlet and be romantic as opposed to getting, God forbid, a little pragmatic. And there needs to be a come to Jesus moment when it comes for this team. Even with all those players that I said coming back in, this is not an elite team. It doesn't mean that you can't win. It doesn't mean that you can't beat teams that are better than you, but you have to get pragmatic. You have to get, I'm sorry, at times you're going to have to get ugly. But doing what we did today on a consistent basis, we got eaten up by a South Korea team. Can you imagine other teams that are better than South Korea, what they're going to do? So that was a little frustrating to me watching this team.
How about that second South Korea goal?
Woo!
Son with the assist, Lee with the little backheel finish.
The touches, the movement,
Yeah,
everything
there was a
really nice
stretch
about it.
late in that first half where South Korea was toying with the U.S. Let's be honest. They look like Pep Guardiola's Barcelona knocking the ball around. I know we're dismissing the last part of the game because South Korea took the foot off the gas and had made some subs, but I do think it's notable how much more impactful Balogun was than Sargent. And, we can talk about the service with Sargent, but if all the games in which the center forward gets the least service are the ones that you're starting, then maybe that tells me something about you and how little you're making yourself involved in the action. So very disappointing for him again. And listen, I've said this before. I know I upset people. I'm not that high in the English championship. So somebody like Johnny Cardoso continues to play well for Atletico Madrid. You think, boy, we got to keep giving him chances and trying to make that one work because it is weird that a guy that could play so well for Atletico Madrid doesn't do it for the national team. With Sargent, Norwich in the championship, I don't feel that way. So I think he's running out of chances in this cycle.
Yeah, look, I have a tough time with this one because I constantly try to contextualize how difficult it is at times if you're playing as a striker in the way in which the U.S. were playing and not creating any chances. And he's a guy who thrives off of crosses into the box. We don't cross the ball. And we were really so one-dimensional in the first half that Tim Weah was a non-factor for me, especially on the left-hand side. I think you've got to flip them. Tim Weah has been most effective for the U.S. on the right, where he can use his speed. He can get to the end line. He can cut balls back. He can make runs in behind. When he's on the left, he's so one-dimensional and so predictable. He wants to come inside onto his right foot. But every time he did that, South Korea doubled him down. Arston's not getting high and wide on the left to give him some options to alleviate some of the pressure. So I actually was looking at the average position, especially in the first half. To your point, Josh Sargent, his average position was deeper than Diego Luna. So Luna is higher. Tim Weah was almost playing as a secondary striker alongside Pulisic. Serginho Dest is high and wide on the right. And it's just this like hodgepodge, as you can see here, of this formation of this mumbo jumbo in the middle. There was no width to the team. There was nothing dynamic in the way in which we were creating, and so much relying on Pulisic and Dest to try to beat guys off the dribble. The problem was South Korea played in a way in which they had the back five. They had the five in front of them that had this nice shell in front. They really pressed with a lot of intensity when they did that. But then when the U.S. got past that initial press, they were able to double down and create numbers advantages for themselves to where the U.S. just became so predictable. They played the ball around, but then all of a sudden, the U.S. has possession, Blackman squeezes up, and then boom, they were hitting us on the counterattack. And it was reminiscent in moments to me of that match the U.S. played against the Netherlands in the World Cup. We're like thinking for a second, well, here, we got the ball. We're feeling pretty good. And then boom, 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 ball goes the other way, and it's a goal, it's a goal, it's a goal. And I just think it's the defensive positioning for the U.S. You talk about this, what do they call it now? Rest defense is the soccerology term that they use. But really what they're trying to say is defensive positioning when your team has the ball to be able to, if your team turns the ball over, be the first guy to be there in a position to either win the ball or cut off a passing lane and stop a dangerous attack. That showed again that Tristan Blackman, look, it's so hard to judge a guy in his first time with the national team, but look, we're 10 months from a World Cup. Yeah. You got to show you're either the level or you're not. He showed to me, I don't think he's a guy that can contribute, especially in a starting position. And we just looked a mess with and without the ball.
You got to take it with both hands. You give given that opportunity, Mr. Blackman, you got to take it. And you didn't today in a moment when the team didn't play well. And look, I know that there's a lot of people out there right now that are negative about this team, given how close the World Cup is and the direction that it is going. And look, you don't need me to validate that by any stretch of the imagination. You're going to do what you're going to do. You know, I also can't come on here and be Pollyanna about the situation and just say, "Oh yeah, we still got time and everything." No, is it concerning to me? Absolutely, it's concerning to me. We cannot afford to screw this up. This is happening on our watch, and yeah, I do take it personally. I've gotten a little bit more, I think, calm in my older age, but it still viscerally affects me. I can feel it, and I get irritated when I see a team like this, because if we screw it up, not just next year, but next year in a home World Cup, yeah, that's a problem. So
Where did you stand on Sargent, by the way? Because look, I just wanted to round out the thought
yeah, yeah.
quickly, but I don't feel that he did enough. He wasn't bad enough or good enough where I'm like, you're done. But I'm willing to start Balogun in the second game, and I think Balogun should start and get that opportunity.
Yeah, I wanted to see Balogun in this game. And again, we have to couch it a little bit where you come in as a substitute because the game state has changed and all that. I actually wanted Balogun to start because we haven't seen him for so long. I do think when all is said and done that he is a better option than Josh Sargent. And, you know, Josh Sargent just might be one of these guys that while he's doing it at the club level, and I know Mosse has talked about the championship and the reality of the championship and that leap, but it just might not translate. And who knows, maybe Josh Sargent will go someplace else and then it still might not translate. He just might be one of those guys where it's just not happening, at least under Pochettino's watch here for the national team.
And I think, Mosse, what do you feel about this? But you know, you're talking about Sargent. I think also, look, strikers fairly unfairly, they get judged by their ability to put the ball in the back of the net. If they don't score a goal, everyone's like, well, you know, the striker. But I think if you're not scoring, you still have to be able to impact the game in a positive way. And I did see, to your point, Balogun in the second half, at least, you know, pinning some defenders, playing as a bit of a pivot and holding the ball up and bringing other people into the game.
Absolutely. And Pepe does that well also. So I think Sargent is a distant third in the pecking order. Yeah, very disappointing today. He didn't do much of anything, and Balogun came on. Balogun, to be fair, should have scored that goal in stoppage time. He had a double opportunity. But still, the mere fact that he was in position to have that opportunity speaks well of how involved he was. And Sargent just couldn't impact the game at all. Now, just to put some numbers on today, that's now 5 straight defeats against top 25 teams. We know the schedule now through the end of the year. U.S. Soccer confirming the November games. So we know it'll be Japan on Tuesday in Columbus, Ecuador and Australia in October, and then Uruguay and Paraguay in November. Uruguay and Paraguay just qualified for the World Cup on Thursday. I've been talking about Paraguay. Gustavo Alfaro doing a phenomenal job. They've been on fire in qualifying. They've beaten Argentina and Brazil recently. So those are all going to be pretty good tests. And man, you just want the U.S. to have some notable result going into the World Cup that you can grab onto. We were talking about the lack of signature wins the last couple cycles. I mean, I don't know if you heard our last pod, but we were trying to think back. When is the last time the U.S. beat a really good non-CONCACAF team? I was looking up, you know, the U.S.'s last foreign coach, Jurgen Klinsmann, who I was not a big fan of. He was not my idea of a great coach, but he had wins away to Italy, away to Germany, away to the Netherlands in friendlies. The U.S. used to win games like that in previous cycles. It's been a while since they've had a win that you could really, really hang your hat on.
I mean, it's the World Cup, right? The Iran win, right? Is that?
Yeah,
I mean,
probably.
That's not, and it's still
We're not counting
Iran.
Mexico.
Right.
In that, you know?
Exactly. Lots of people out there having comments, including our old friend and colleague, Carly Lloyd. And I think that there is not just angst. I mean, there is some anger out there when you tune in and you watch this this team. Before you get to the Carly ones, I want you guys to also chime in here, because people are now talking about Mauricio Pochettino. And okay, here we go. Here's Carly. I thought Berhalter was the problem. Leave it to her to be really succinct.
Oh man, Carly had a pint of sarcasm.
I know,
morning.
from
She's
the
laying
top
on
rope
thick.
up there,
Woo!
Carly. I mean, we love it because she says what's on her mind and she's tuning in. And I know because she has represented this country, she doesn't want to see something like that we saw today. So it begs the question, and I already had the question over here on X from somebody about Mauricio Pochettino, and just asking me, do you think that he's in the on the hot seat right now? And I don't think so, because I do think that the United States Soccer Federation, and in particular Matt Crocker, the technical director over there, I think they are heavily literally invested in him in terms of paying him $6 million a year, but also connected and invested in this short-term project that is Pochettino and the hire of Pochettino. But I will remind people that the calculation still hasn't, and I don't think should have changed, in that at any point between now and the World Cup, if the United States Soccer Federation and Matt Crocker feel that success next summer is in jeopardy, and I know it's subjective, whatever success is, but they feel that it's in jeopardy in the way that they did after Greg Berhalter had the problems in Copa America, then they have a responsibility to make that change. I don't think that is what is going to happen, but there are a lot of people that are talking about it, saying, hey, this was not the right hire because of things, obviously, that he has said, but more importantly, what has happened on the field. Do you see any conceivable change that is made relative to the head coach before the World Cup?
I don't see a way in which U.S. Soccer would put that much egg on their own face and admit that they hired the wrong guy at this point, with how much that would cost, and honestly, how much.
Well, is it the hubris, or is it not it's not paying him? Both?
Well, I think, look, if you genuinely feel as a business that your business is going to suffer that much, and that's the buyout amount, no amount of money, I feel like, should stop you from making that decision if you feel that that's going to make the difference. Look,
well, how do you quantify bombing out of a World Cup or doing poorly
does
in
a
a home
coach-
World Cup?
Here-
What-
so
what
here's
is
what I
that-
say.
What is that
Do you-
worth?
do
What's
you
that worth
feel
to the
that a coach-
Federation? What's that worth to America? What's
do you
that
feel
worth
that a
to
coach
soccer?
do you feel that a coach is going to make the difference? That's
Then why
the
the hell are
question.
we paying him $6 million a year if he can't do anything with these players? The whole point of bringing him in was that he could do more with the players.
Allegedly.
And he's done less.
But this is
But
what we were
that's
saying.
crazy. That is insane.
This is why we were saying to the people that were questioning Greg Berhalter's credentials and ability with this team, is that before we could truly place the blame on the players, and that the players, hey, guess what? Maybe are not good enough. Maybe they're not as good as we thought they were going to be. We had to go and get a world-class coach so that now we can officially say, well, it's the players. It doesn't matter who the coach is.
We paid $6 million
To find out that our guys
get
weren't
somebody
good
to
enough.
come in and tell us
Yeah.
what we already knew?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Fire everybody. Good God. This is ridiculous.
Are you firing the coach right now?
I am not the one that has to do that.
I don't care. I'm asking you. If you were U.S. Soccer right now, would you be firing Pochettino right now, 10 months before the World Cup?
It's a good question. Yeah, I would.
Wow.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. And not look, as everybody knows, I spent time with Mauricio Pochettino. I think he is a quality coach. But again, if this was not a home World Cup, then no.
But hold on. What are you basing that decision off? I mean, at the end of the day, look, fell out of the Nations League, second place in the Gold Cup, lost to Mexico in the final with not all of his key guys. Chose to, doesn't matter what.
You know what I'm basing it on?
He's clearly not
On
prioritized winning, though,
Mauricio
in these games so
Pochettino
far.
himself, in what he has said and what he has done, okay? He laments the fact that the United States is not a soccer-playing nation, all right? Not in like, he's looking down on us by any stretch of the match. He's come to the realization, and with his experience here, and, he's talked about it, that this is not a soccer-first country, okay? We all understand that. But you know what they would do in a soccer-first country? They wouldn't abide by this. Hell no. It would be on to the next one. Let's get somebody in here that can do the things as we lead up to the World Cup to show us we're heading in the right direction. And if you can't do it, then we'll make a change. And again, this is a home World Cup. It is unique in that aspect, and therefore the stakes are that much higher. And so like I said, whether you're Matt Crocker, or anybody else at the United States Soccer Federation, this is going to happen on your watch. And if you let it happen and it doesn't go well and it's a failure, then everybody should be out.
But Lex, let me throw something back at you that
Sure.
you yourself have said from the very beginning when U.S. Soccer hired Pochettino when they did. All that matters is how this team ultimately does in the World Cup next year. So what you're now saying is that what he has done in that short interim period, because by your measure previously was you have basically 18 months to get this team to a point by whatever process you want, winning games, losing games, calling in different guys, trying different guys. There's no pressure right now. The pressure comes next year. And If he could lose every game from now until the World Cup, but then he could go to a quarterfinals or a semifinals, and this would be viewed as a success.
Okay, so
true or false? True or false?
Yo, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're a king. We'll put a statue for
So-
Mauricio Pochettino if it goes well next summer.
But when he was first hired, you weren't even like, you were just basically throwing all of these games out of the window and saying, I don't really care what happens. You were saying that. I don't care what happens. All that matters is next summer.
What? I was telling you why he was hired. He's hired for next
To
summer.
perform next
But
summer.
I didn't do the hiring. I didn't hire him.
But this is the bed they laid. U.S. Soccer laid this bed by the timing, the hiring of Berhalter, how long they let that go, the firing of when they made it.
Absolutely.
And my point is that you've made your bed, you lie in it,
Right.
you've hitched your wagon to this horse,
Right.
and you're going to ride this horse to the World Cup.
And my point is, Mauricio Pochettino, all right, you want that an Argentinian type of spirit and that ruthlessness in your players and in your team and in your country and in your culture. Well, here it is. This is not good enough. Goodbye. We get somebody else in that's going to do the job that is going to enable us to have success next summer. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen by any stretch of the imagination, because to your point, they are invested in him. This is going to go through the summer, and I am going to support him 100%. But if you ask me today, am I confident that this team is going to do great things next summer, given what has happened? Hell no. And Mauricio Pochettino would have to say the exact same things. No, this is his plan. This is the long-term plan. He's absolutely going to be judged next summer. And I don't think the United States Soccer Federation is going to make a change. But you could say the same thing about Greg Berhalter. Well, it's just about the summer of 2026. So who really cares about, going out in a Copa America? Because let's be honest, it was a red card that basically kept them out. So it's really not fair to judge Greg Berhalter, and we shouldn't judge him until next summer. But this is what we do. We judge through the games. We are reactive. We are emotional about it. We are passionate about it. And there's a lot of people out there that are saying, oh my goodness, we are in deep you-know-what come next summer. And if we don't make a change, then that's going to come to fruition. And I don't want that on my watch. I don't want that to happen to my country. I don't want that to happen to my sport. And so it behooves me, if I'm in a position of leadership and power, to make the changes necessary to give us the best possible chance of success.
If you did fire Pochettino, would you go back to an American or another foreigner? Jose Mourinho is available. He just got sacked at Fenerbahce.
Oh, gosh.
But Jose is going to come in and say, well, I can't do anything with this. I'm going to, no. I mean, just
So an American.
coach him up to somebody. It doesn't even have to be American. I don't care. But just someone that's going to be practical, someone that is going to be pragmatic about the way this team is and is honest about this is who we are.
Let me just say, I'm with Stu. I think it's too close to the World Cup now. You just hope for the best, and maybe Pochettino.
Why is it too close for the United States? But for other countries around the world, it would be like, no, we change it.
Nah, for most countries, it's getting pretty close.
Mexico.
It would have to be a pretty extreme
Do you
situation.
want to be Mexico?
Huh?
Do you want to be Mexico? Don't
Okay.
fire the coach
So
every
we're
whatever.
only going to pick and choose
listen.
the true soccer cultures out there.
But I'm with you. It has been an abject disappointment. We're coming up now on
What would Brazil do? You think anybody would bat an eye if Brazil made a change right now, given what has happened with the results here?
Even with Brazil, it would have to be pretty bad this close to the
I'm not
World Cup.
saying it wouldn't be big, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility
No,
in
it's
terms
not.
of what history has done.
But here's what I think Mauricio Pochettino has vastly underestimated as part of his plan. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he said, look, I know what I've got from 12 to 14 on my roster. The top 12 are going to be there. I could put those names down right now. I really want to see between the Gold Cup and the friendlies coming up after, if I can find some type of depth. If not, this next window, we're going back to those 14 guys. I'm focused on those 14 guys. If we pick up an injury, who cares? These are going to be my guys. And I think he's looking to do that the next window.
But so it's the next window. Next window. We kick the can down to the next window. Okay, that's where we really decide.
But this is where I'm saying he's vastly underestimated and misjudged the U.S. soccer fan base. What this team, what the players need right now, they need results. They need confidence. They need a feeling of really building something. And I think with all of the losses, what has happened, instead of being like, hey, Pochettino's got a plan, we've got Pochettino, all of a sudden now all the finger pointing is coming back towards him, saying, hey, what the hell are you doing, man? Is this guy even capable of doing what we need to do with this team and getting us the results that we need? And I think
Well, who should have come back
by trying to?
Who
It's
the hell
true.
he wanna
I'm
point
not
to?
saying that it shouldn't. That's why I'm saying he's made a mistake because it's been a loss after a loss after a loss after a disappointment, and now everybody's getting fed up of all of this. And to your point, you're like, I've had enough. And what I'm saying is, like, I think by his measure, clearly by some of these selections that he's made, and clearly by some of the rosters he picked in the Gold Cup, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt for the moment in saying, he's
So
not
when
going
does the benefit
he's
of the
not
doubt
going to
stop?
leave out Johnny Cardoso, Weston McKennie, a number of these guys that were left with their clubs. He's not going to do that for a World Cup.
Fine,
Okay,
then,
these
fine.
guys are going to
You know
be
what?
back in.
Screw it. I don't care anymore. I don't care about the U.S. men's national team anymore. You tell me, Mauricio Pochettino and the United States Soccer Federation, you tell me when it's okay and safe for me to care and therefore to judge you, okay? You tell me when you have your ideal perfect situation back, and then I will come in, I'll do a State of the Union, I'll talk about it on X, I'll go on TV and talk about it. Because evidently, we're not allowed to care until absolutely the idyllic situation shows up. That is ridiculous.
I'm not saying that you're not allowed to care. I'm saying that he doesn't care if you care or not because he's not going to get fired.
Nor should he.
He
He
doesn't
shouldn't
have
give
pressure.
a crap about anything
doesn't
that I
have
say,
pressure like
nor
that.
than what I just said. He doesn't have any pressure
He
anymore.
doesn't have pressure like that unless U.S. Soccer is serious that they're going to fire him because they told him basically, this is your team, take it to the World Cup. That's why they hired him.
Then
right?
we'll see you in 278 days, and let's just all go hang out at the beach, all right? And then we'll talk about the team then. Now, I'm being facetious.
I know you're being facetious. I love it.
But
It's because you care.
It is
I care.
because it
we
is
all
because I
care.
care. It is
I
because
hate watching this team. I
want
right now.
for-
I don't like watching this because I know how I'm going to
Nobody
feel
does.
after the game.
Nobody does. But if it doesn't matter until next summer, which I know I am as guilty as anybody of saying, then fine, we can just go away and show up next summer. But we can't do that. We don't have qualifying to go through. So we have to base all of our assumptions and we have to base all of our conversations around what happens on the field. And what happened tonight was crap. And it doesn't fill me with excitement. It doesn't fill me with optimism come next summer. And so if I'm not filled with that, and therefore I'm actually scared about what's going to happen next summer, then yeah, of course, if I'm in charge, I'm going to look to make a change.
So-
to do everything in my power to give them the best possible chance of success.
Here's what we can all agree. If this window was framed by Pochettino as a chance to get a look at new players, today was a complete failure in that regard. Is there any new player you saw today that really staked their claim for a big role at the World Cup and changed the calculus, and now you feel better about that position and there were more options
No.
than there were before?
No.
So we agree. Today was an absolute failure by the stated goal that Pochettino had laid out for this window.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Absolutely.
no.
Thanks,
it wasn't
thanks
a
for
failure.
rounding this out, Mosse. You know,
No,
that's,
it wasn't
that's
a-
why we
It wasn't a
that's
failure.
why we always count on you.
It was a success in assessing the players. The players failed, but the execution and the experiment that was assessing them, that wasn't a failure. So, I mean, I'm defending Mauricio Pochettino.
You see, you and him looked
You're so wound up right now.
you and him looked very chummy last week, and boy, the honeymoon is over, huh? Lasted all of 1 week.
Again, be careful what you wish for, all right? If this is what you want, Mauricio Pochettino, if this is the type of situation that you want players to feel the pressure. You want them to feel the fire. You want that type of fire in your players. And like I said, the ruthlessness, okay, fine. Because anywhere else in the world, you would be under incredible amount of pressure. And people will be questioning you day in and day out. What the hell is going on? Why is this team failing to do anything on the field that ignites any type of passion and excitement? All right, and you can blame it on American culture. You can blame it on American history. You can blame it on anything else, but it's not good enough.
Look at the comments. I mean, the comment section has been on fire today. Somebody asking, how are you, Mosse? So it says, Alexi, calm down or you might not make it to next summer. You're busting a valve over there, buddy.
Listen, okay. I'm gonna calm down.
No, don't. I love it. This is when you're at your
No,
best, my
I
friend. You
I
know?
want to make sure that I am not being misinterpreted out there.
No, we
I
heard
don't
you.
think-
No, we heard you say that you would fire Pochettino. We heard that loud and clear.
It's already clipped off. Like, by the way, while you mentioned Jurgen Klinsmann, so you go over the years. I have had good and bad times with all sorts of managers out there, and certainly managers when it comes to the U.S. men's national team. And I know it's easy from here with my microphone sitting in my chair, sitting in the studio to tell people what they do. But guess what? This is the job. This is what we do. And Mauricio Pochettino, maybe more so than anybody that we've had in that position, understands that it comes with heat. Now, not the type of heat that he is used to other places. So this is nothing, all right? He's just going to flick this off if it's, if he feels it at all out there. Yes, I was with him last week. Yes, he is a good man, and I think he is a good coach. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to pull punches. That doesn't mean that at times I'm not going to be critical of what's going on. And in this moment right now, there is an absolute justification, as far as I am concerned, with making a change. I'm not saying it's going to happen. As a matter of fact, I don't even think it's close to happening right now. To Stu's point, this is going to be kicked down the road. So maybe next window, then we can really assess the team and therefore really assess Mauricio Pochettino. And then after that window, yeah, but this guy was hurt or I was trying something else here. And, we don't have to, we're still going to the World Cup and we'll still be in that group. So, we're going to kick it down to the next window. And the next thing we're going to find is the World Cup is a couple weeks away. And we've said, well, we've kicked it down to this window. And fine, if Pochettino wants to put all his chips into next summer and that World Cup, which he is being paid to do, and I understand that, fine. I love a guy that goes all in, and I will support him 100% if he is the coach next summer.
And I agree with you. Ultimately, what matters is the World Cup, but you want to feel some sense of momentum heading into it. It is shocking that we're sitting here less than 300 days out with a big-name foreign manager, which is what a lot of the fans wanted in this supposed golden generation, and just how flat everything feels right now. It's incredibly disappointing. There's really nothing you can grab onto to give you any sense of hope for next summer beyond the fact that, hey, maybe once you get into the tournament, it's a total reset and they can flip a switch from there.
Can we talk about one of the detrimental parts of, and I think a disadvantage of being a host nation? We talk so much about being a host nation in a World Cup and what that comes with when you're actually in the tournament and you have home support and you're going to have these great atmospheres and you're going to build momentum around it. Well, one of the big things that continues to not get talked about, I think, is how you're actually at a major disadvantage in the games that you have leading up to it. Because you automatically qualify, you're only playing friendlies. And even my daughter, we were watching this game the first half before I came in here, and she's like, Dad, is this a friendly, though, against South Korea after they scored their second goal? And I was like, yeah. She's like, it's a friendly. I was like, yeah, but this is all we have until the World Cup. We don't have any more competitive games. And not having to go through a qualifying cycle like this young group did in 2022 to get back to a World Cup. And we saw them mature by the time that they arrived in the World Cup. They'd played some meaningful games. They'd felt real competition. They'd felt real pressure. They'd felt real stakes. And I think what we're talking about here, and this pressure, no pressure, it is a product of the fact that this is a friendly, and it affords you the opportunity as a coach, as a U.S. Soccer Federation, to be like, we're going to play South Korea. We're going to play Japan. We're going to try to play these teams. We're going to play Paraguay. We're going to get Uruguay. We're going to try these teams to get this style of play. Nothing can recreate a real competitive match. I've played friendlies versus non-friendlies. They don't feel the same. The players don't compete in the same way, and the stakes aren't the same, which is why I know we were broadcasting the tournament and why we were so high on the Gold Cup. We were banging the drum about you need to bring your best team, your best players to this tournament because this is your last chance to create and feel anything like that in the lead up to a World Cup. And I'm sitting here thinking about host nations that have hosted in recent years. Qatar, Russia, that's a little bit different in terms of expectations. Brazil had the big failure in Brazil when they got knocked out by Germany. South Africa is a little bit different in 2010. You have to keep going back and back to back to find a host nation that's actually benefited truly. Maybe, South Korea in 2002 had a really great run, but
yeah, but
but you experienced this. I know, but I'm just saying.
From the moment that
you have to
envelope
create
got
pressure
opened
within
up,
the group yourselves
when
and say this is all we've got.
Opened it up and it said USA, Mexico, Canada. We knew we weren't going to have a qualifying process.
I know.
So we had plenty of time to figure this out and deal with it. I'm not saying that it's not a problem. It's a little apples and oranges. I know last week on the pod I talked about 1994 relative to what is going to be 2026 and not having that, and all we did was play friendly games. But we were also in a residency camp, and it was just a very, very different time. But yeah, it is a problem. But the United States Soccer Federation and the leadership over there, they have known about this for years. So you had plenty of time to plan for it and figure it out and mitigate for some of it. Yes.
Can I give you a couple of Pochettino post-match quotes?
Yes, sir.
He said the performance was a massive improvement. Results will come soon. And then he also said, we have to start to win when the World Cup starts.
No, we didn't.
Yeah. The South Korea
You're BSing me, right?
the South Korea coach, by the way, said this was like a home match, so he twisted the knife a little bit as well.
Wait, he didn't say we have to start. Are you serious? Are you really?
Well,
Are you really
according,
reading that?
I see the tweet as well from Paul Kennedy.
Paul
He
Kennedy, yeah.
tweeted that Pochettino said we have to start to win the World Cups. Yeah. Well,
Well,
thanks for that one.
I don't know how you say no shit in Spanish, but that's exact. Okay,
Lex, we're live.
I mean,
Look, I think after you had your screaming, yelling, rage of
Yes, I'm
emotion
okay.
that came out, I think we contextualize that the sky has not completely fallen.
yeah,
This was not great. This was not good. This was bang average, below average. I don't see much positivity. The U.S. didn't create many chances. They were better in the second half when they actually went to a back three. Start that way against Japan. Japan's not going to be easier, by the way. Japan is a good team.
good team. Yeah.
Japan pressed very high, technically very good team, tons of energy. They have quality. It's going to be a good test for the U.S. again in the ways in which they tried to build out, the way in which they create chances. I hope he doesn't make 8 lineup changes. I think let's go to something that starts to resemble.
Well, it doesn't matter though, because this window doesn't matter.
Japan, by the way, play Mexico tonight, so you can get a look at the U.S.'s next opponent. Mexico's playing the same opponents in reverse. They'll then face South Korea in their second game in this window.
How do you feel about the Japan game right now off of that?
Feels like another loss. No, but I mean, I think Balogun will start up top. Richards will start at the center of defense. We'll see if it's a back 3 or back 4. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Another tough game. But, hopefully the U.S. will play better. They'll be motivated after this performance. We'll see. It'd be interesting to see how many changes he makes. If he sticks to this, it's just about getting a look at different players and he starts Jack McGlynn's and Zendejas, or if he puts out what he thinks is the strongest possible lineup to try to go get a result against Japan.
Why would he do that?
Right? Weah looked like he was struggling with.
Why would he do that? Because of this result tonight?
I mean, he's got to feel some pressure to get a result, no?
No, why?
I guess that's what we just established. Yeah, based on his comments, he doesn't.
I don't think he feels any pressure to get a result. Does he like that they didn't win tonight? No, of course not. But I think to his credit, he is a true believer in whatever it is that he's doing. And I'll be honest, as much as I can be critical, I want somebody that believes in what they're doing. I can disagree, and I can be flummoxed by it, which anybody that's watching this show recognizes I am. But if you don't believe in what you're doing, then there's a problem. And I do think that he believes that this is the right path and that ultimately it is going to come good next summer. And I will, to defend him a little bit, there is a magic that comes in a tournament. You got to be able to find it and grab a hold of it. And again, you're putting all eggs into this World Cup basket. And look, if he was winning a bunch of games here and this was all great, it only goes back to Mosse's point. At a moment when we should be so excited and energetic and positive and barreling down the tracks in a good way towards this incredible opportunity next summer, that's not the case. There is this palpable sense of fear and doom and disappointment right now, given the only thing that we can judge it on, which is what the team is doing right now. And I hope that Brigadoonish type of thing happens for Mauricio Pochettino next summer. And they come in and there's this magical mist that envelops them all. And every good part about this team, whether it's individual and collectively, comes to fruition. And every bad part, and we certainly see plenty of it, just somehow gets left outside of that beautiful Brigadoon.
And you mentioned the downside of being the host, the lack of competitive matches. The good side is you get to be a seeded team, which the U.S. probably wouldn't be based on their FIFA ranking if this World Cup was being held anywhere else. And we'll see a 48-team World Cup. There's some weak teams getting in there. We'll see what the U.S. group looks like. We'll find out December 5th, by the way. We're covering the draw, Washington, D.C. We're excited about that.
I don't think they're going to be as weak as you think, Mosse.
No?
48 teams, and yes, there are going to be some debutantes and some teams that aren't normally there, but I think it's going to be much more competitive than people get it credit for.
The latest team to cross the finish line, Morocco, the first team from Africa to qualify. We know what they did in 22, getting to the semis. Also very impressive in the Olympics, including hammering the U.S. So it'll be fascinating to see if Morocco can what can they do for an encore in 26 after that great run in 22.
Yeah, they have some super exciting talent in terms of individuals and also the way in which they played as a team and a team with belief. And I think that's the thing we underestimate is at times about, well, turning up, and there's special things that happen in these tournaments. I think in order for those special things to happen, you have to have a group that believes in that they can create something special. And right now, I don't think we have a team that does. And I wonder if that's why part of Pochettino's post-match messaging is that now he's got to try and turn the screw and flip the script a little bit for this team mentally. I'd be curious to ask him, and it's going to be coming out. Again, we're doing this show live right after the game has happened. There would be a ton of questions that I would have for Pochettino in terms of specifics and what he saw in that performance specifically that he liked better. Because
massive
there wasn't a lot.
I guess from the
what?
Switzerland debacle.
The baseline couldn't be much lower, could it? What did you say?
Goodness.
Here's another quote from Pochettino. No, it's actually from
The South Korea coach.
Yeah, saying we utilized our speed. The opponent wasn't prepared for this, maybe. Well, yeah, that's exactly kind of what we talked about when we broke down some of the specifics and how it happened within the game. The speed in which South Korea presses with, the speed in which they transition with. That's, South Korea compared to the teams you're going to see in a World Cup as well.
Well, how do you press? It's a combination of the physical and obviously the mental and knowing where to go. But from a physical perspective, they were pressing every single pass that came into an American player. There was a Korean guy that was right on their back. And that takes, like I said, a physical ability to do it. So from a physical perspective, it irks me each and every time that we get beaten from a physical perspective. That's like outworked, or people that are faster than us. Come on, man. If they technically are better than us and they figure that out, okay, fine. You raise your hand and clap. But we shouldn't get outworked, especially against a team like
but see, I think some of that also comes down to the tactical side in the game and the way in which we were building out and we continue to build out with a 4 is that how many times did I see the ball circulate around the back 4? It gets to Arston. He looks up, and by the time he gets the ball, he's got to turn. He's got to go back. We don't have players that can find solutions either by themselves or in the ways in which they're being set up. And that's why I'm saying if you switch the formation a little bit and you change the formation in the build out, you can give yourself a numbers advantage. You can drop a player a little bit different. You can spread out. You can create an advantage for yourself. And I don't see any of those adjustments within the game. And that's why I hate trying to have to continue to contextualize the second half is different from the first just because of the game state. But also, when we played with 5 in the back, you're able to spread the 3 center backs. South Korea are pressing with 2, so you have a man advantage there. You have 2 in the middle. You have a man advantage in the midfield. And that's why the U.S. were able to create more chances in the wide parts of the field, because all of a sudden now our fullbacks are higher up the field. Let's just see that. Look, we've seen all these players. Let me see that from the start, okay? That's all I ask of Pochettino. What you're doing right now is not working. So
what do you care? Maybe we'll see it in the first game of the World Cup.
One last thing I don't want us to gloss over this. Pochettino, don't get cute at the goalkeeper position. Matt Turner is now playing regularly in MLS. Matt Turner is a better goalkeeper than Matt Friis. You want to give Friis these games because you thought he did well at the Gold Cup, but eventually it's got to be Matt Turner starting, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if I feel as strongly about that as you.
Well, you want Matt Turner.
You don't feel strongly that he will start Matt Turner, or that Matt Turner should start?
I don't feel strongly in Matt Friis, but I also don't feel strongly in Matt Turner. If that makes sense. Like I still think that it's kind of open, the goalkeeping position.
But I feel less strong with Friis. So
you feel less strong. It's quite the vote of confidence.
Exactly. That's where we are.
Agree. We think the goalkeepers are going to be Friis, Turner, and Steffen. Those will be the 3 that are kind of.
I guess maybe Steffen.
Maybe Steffen.
Yeah,
but maybe Celentano or.
As we start to wind this up here, I know when Pochettino talks, people listen and we read into it, or we read between the lines and all. And when Pochettino was there last week at Ohio State, I know you guys are big college football fans. We have a bunch of people that are working behind the scenes here that are big college football fans. And we talked a little bit about this in the previous pod. He was taken aback, but also, pleasantly surprised and even jealous almost of what he was seeing, especially when it comes to, some of the games that he has been exposed to from a U.S. perspective and the lack of a home crowd, which again, if accounts are to be believed, was also the situation at Sports Illustrated Park. Is that what it's called now? Over there in New Jersey. But he was, very, very complimentary and positive about that experience, talking about, if only we can have a little bit of that translate to our sport. He said, I think our players will appreciate it a lot, and I'm sure the fans will help us achieve or earn what we want. Well, again, going back to what I screamed and yelled up earlier, yes, it's a wonderful environment. And, I saw firsthand what the shoe was when it comes to college sports and college football in particular. Yeah, it's wonderful. But guess what? There's also a lot of pressure, and coaches get fired all the time. And if you're not doing the job, it doesn't matter how much you're beloved or what you did last year, that comes with the pressure. So, Mauricio Pochettino, if you want that type of environment and you want that type of culture, guess what comes with it? A need and a desire and a demanding from the fan base and from the media and from the culture that surrounds it that you perform. And if you don't, adios, fuera.
One more Pochettino quote for you. Tom Bogert posting this on X. My message to the fans is that we're going to arrive at the World Cup in the best condition and we're going to be difficult to defeat.
Perfect. Great. Great. Okay. You have not shown us anything yet that we should believe that that's going to happen with what we've seen on the field. So basically, this is a what do they call it? A trust fall, right? Okay. We're gonna fall backwards, and we are going to trust Mauricio Pochettino is going to catch us in June of 2026.
I think just every window becomes a further sobering reality about the level of talent that we have in the team and the lack of depth. And I just don't think the coach changes that much. And I've been saying this since the World Cup in 2022. We have not seen a progression from this group of players. We've not seen any new players emerge from that cycle that have gotten me remotely excited that they can contribute at a different level that we saw at that point. And so that's where even that quote right there reminds me of that. We're going to be difficult to defeat. Does that signal maybe a different mentality from we're going to attack, we're going to score goals, we're going to be this fun, exciting team to, you know what? This is who we are. We've got what we've got. This is my last window of experimentation. This is the group of players I've got. And let's be more defensive team. Let's go back to some of the old school teams that we've had.
Fair enough. So Stu Holden doesn't believe that the coach really is going to change this team that much. And therefore, then I would submit to you that the leadership of the United States Soccer Federation has abdicated their fiduciary responsibility in paying somebody $6 million a year, okay? If it really isn't going to change that much, then why are we doing that?
You had to try.
Huh?
You had to try.
You had to try with a $6 million a year person?
Well, that's what it takes to get
You just told me it's not going to change that
much. That's
much.
what you have to take. Well, you had to pay to find out.
This much better? Cost $6 million?
That's not what we were. When you're signing a coach for $6 million, who, by the way, his resume and his credentials back up that he's a good coach.
I don't begrudge him that. Wonderful. I love the fact that he's making a lot of money. Go ahead, make a lot of money. But if you're telling me that the coach doesn't really matter given the talent that we have, then why are we doing that?
Does he become a bad coach overnight because all of a sudden he comes in and coaches now in a different situation?
No, but a good coach coaches them up. That's the whole point. If you're just going to come in and say, well, yeah, but I don't have the tools. Yeah, okay, fine. Then I'm not going to pay you to do it.
I will say, and this is a whole conversation for a different day, but you mentioned that nobody's really emerged that's new in this cycle to get people excited. Brazil the other night beat Chile 3-0. This 18-year-old Estevão became the youngest player to score in a competitive match for Brazil since Pele. You saw Mastantuono started for Argentina in Messi's last competitive match at home. Messi scored twice against Venezuela. Obviously, Lamine Yamal is in a whole different universe. And then I've been talking up this Gilberto Moura with Mexico. We saw him at the Gold Cup, how good he was there, and he's kicked on from there. It seems like almost every country has at least one hotshot teenager coming up. And yeah, it's disappointing that the U.S., which likes to project this image of being this up-and-coming footballing nation that's really figured out talent development, where is that 18-year-old that's going to be part of this World Cup and that's going to be the hot young star that has people excited? It's disappointing that that player doesn't exist right now.
All right, I'm going to try to
stop being facetious and sarcastic
and to relax. Namaste, breathe through the nose. It's only because I care. And Poch, if you're watching this, I want you to do well. All right, and I want all the coaches that we have for the team to do well. Ultimately, whether I'm right or wrong is irrelevant because this team, not just winning and doing well, but doing well in particular next summer. I know I keep harping on the fact that it's a home World Cup, and maybe it's because of my history. I know what a great opportunity is, but I also know what a great responsibility is. And if I see us deviating and going in a direction that causes me concern that we're not going to maximize the opportunity that is next summer, yeah, I get concerned and I want to do whatever. I mean, I'm on the outside, but I want to have done what is going to hopefully, to Mosse's point, get us heading in a positive direction and a positive momentum towards
But,
next summer.
you
I
know,
think
like,
we all want that.
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna just rile you up one more time. Though.
Okay.
But
Wonderful.
no, I mean, you're constant poking at me about like I'm not trying to absolve Pochettino of blame, but I feel like you haven't been as critical in this situation of the players as you have been potentially previously. Is that just because you feel like you've reached your max on like the players? Because I actually feel like you feel you have more faith in the players than maybe I'm giving the players credit for.
So you think that I think that the players are better
Yes.
than we are seeing?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I think that the players are better than we are seeing.
And so you're putting
and
that more on the coaching.
Well, it goes right back to what we talked about. All right. If you got to coach them up, that's what you're being paid all of this money to do. I'm talking about Mauricio Pochettino, but it could be anybody in there. They come in. The whole concept of coaching them up has kind of gone out the window. That's the whole point of bringing in somebody that they can do better than what the previous person.
I'm aware, but let's just take the first goal of the game today for an example. Right. The team is in a 4-2-3-1. They're in a fairly solid defensive shape. South Korea pick up the ball wide. They play 3 passes right through the middle. Blackman steps inside. A ball goes in behind. Heung-Min puts it in the back of the net.
Right.
Is that coaching?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's coaching.
Why?
Because you're the coach of the team that
but
lost.
You set your team up in a good formation in that moment, but your players don't step or get the pressure or do what they're meant to do in those moments.
Right.
And that's where I'm saying that I don't know if our talent or our players and the IQ that they have.
Can you imagine?
The goal again right now.
Yeah, okay. No pressure on the ball all the way back. Now you're in emergency type of thing.
That's individual mistakes again for me.
Can you imagine if Greg Berhalter had said, well, I can't score the goals. I can't save the ball. I can't defend. That's not what I'm doing.
Well, a lot of coaches do say that. Once the game starts, it's out of my control.
Yeah, exactly. And what you're doing is absolving yourself from what you see coming. And if you don't want the responsibility, because I guarantee you.
See, I got him.
Sorry. Why'd you do this? When it goes well, the coaches will pontificate. I'm not saying they won't get credit to the players, but they'll pontificate. Oh yeah, we saw the weakness of this player. Oh yeah, we were during training, we saw that we were going to go down the left side and do all this kind of stuff. No, but when it doesn't go well, I can't score. I can't put the ball on the net. I can't hit the cross. I can't save the ball.
No, we love to point fingers.
Did you see Kyla Morris had a very cheeky graphic earlier in the show? She said, MLS star leads South Korea to victory, referring to Son, because there continues to be so much debate about the amount of MLS players in the squad and all the comments that Pochettino's made about MLS. And some of them, like Blackman, didn't cover themselves in glory today, so that's going to continue to be a talking point.
It is, as ever.
Get the tinfoil out. And conspiracy theories.
Winning changes a lot, okay?
I know. It does. Exactly. And look,
to Pochettino
we might come back.
Comments about college football and that atmosphere that comes from winning cultures and these big fan bases. They expect to win. They like to win. American fans, we like winners. We like to root for winners. We want something to root for. And that's just going back to what I said earlier about him vastly misjudging, I think, why this team and why the fans and the supporters, they will turn up if you give them something to care about. Right now, you've given nothing to anybody to care about this team.
But that's not giving American fans enough credit. I don't think you're giving American fans enough credit in that I think that American fans, in watching this team, at certain points, are willing to say, okay, this is an experiment. The result isn't as important as the information that we glean out of this game. Either we're playing different people, we're playing in a different formation, we're trying something new. I think people will grant, in this case it would be Mauricio Pochettino, would grant him grace and the team grace for an experimental type of thing. But it's September 6th, and as we said, the windows are diminishing. We don't have anything other than friendly games between now and the World Cup. And so I think that's where the consternation comes from me and many out there. But you know what? They could come back a few days from now against Japan and put in a wonderful, wonderful performance. I make the dig against Stu and say, yeah, but it doesn't matter because it's still the window when we're just experimenting. So it either experiments well or experiments bad, but it's still all a big experiment. That's my Stu voice right
really?
there.
Wow.
But I would love to be wowed come the Japan game and have a rebound from this group and therefore have a much more positive ending to this window that we all know is experimentation.
Stu's voice is more high-pitched than that. You didn't quite capture
I
it.
know, that's true.
We will do this again on Tuesday after the Japan game. Stu, you're welcome to join us again if you're available.
If I'm available for a sparring match.
Come on, let's do it.
I'd go 12 rounds with you any day, buddy.
I hope it's going to be like a kumbaya. Mauricio Pochettino.
Bossy's going to start the pod.
Let's
get
ready to rumble. Another cycle for Poch. Here we go. All right, listen.
Enjoyed it.
It's
Well,
just
not the game.
sports,
I didn't
but
enjoy that.
it's just sports. It's just
therapeutic.
soccer,
It's
but
therapeutic
it's
to
something
sit
that
here
we
with
love.
you.
It's something that we talk about. It's something I know we scream and yell about. Sometimes we get, we go over the line. Sometimes all that kind of stuff. But this is the kind of stuff that we enjoy talking about, and it comes from a place. All of us here, and I know everybody else that's watching out there, it comes from a place because we care. We care about this team. We care about this country. We care about, again, what's going to come next summer. We want it to be the best possible version of it, both on and off the field, that we can possibly have. And when we feel we're going astray, and after tonight, I think a lot of people do, that comes out in the things that we do and say. Anything before we go, Mosse?
Yeah, one last non-soccer related topic. Our director today was John Marcus. He recently got married.
Yeah, there we go.
And he seems very happy, by the way.
Well, he's joining the ranks. So
yes.
We'll talk to him in a few weeks.
So, John, congratulations. I heard the wedding was lovely. All the best.
All the best. All the
best.
Best wishes and congratulations to him and his significant other. Anything before we go, Stu?
Nope. Smash that.
Smash it.
Subscribe button.
That's what I'm talking about, people.
All
All
the
right.
good stuff.
Namaste. Breathe through the nose. Thank you. All right. Review and download and rate and subscribe and do all the different things that you do. As Mosse said, we will be back again following the game on Tuesday against Japan. Immediate reaction, live reaction. Hopefully it's a much more positive reaction. Over there on the old YouTube thing, left, right, up, down, double fist. Make sure you smash that button. Smash that button. We'll talk to you again on Tuesday. Until then, and as always, my friends, size the day.